going to say label the text dot text is equal to not just like that, is equal to plus. So if I now launch the application, I will be presented with a plus. But as you will see, we are going to need the previous number also in addition to the new number. So what we need is, if I now write 78 and I say plus, and then I write a new number here, when I now click on equal, we not only need this number right here, but we also need the previous number. So we need to store the previous number, and then we need to perform the math operation on the previous number and our new number. So up here, we are going to need to store the previous number when the user clicks on either plus, minus, equal, or divide, or something like that. So we're going to need a new variable that I am just going to name previous number, which is going to be 0. And of course I need to define it. It's going to be 0. And then down here, I'm also going to define a new, let's see, this one also has to be a double. And then I'm going to perform or create a new variable that I'm going to name performing math, which is false. And performing math is going to be true when I either click on plus, minus, divide, or multiply. So then it's going to become true, and that is our clue for storing the previous number and resetting everything so that the user can write in the new number. So what we're going to do here is we'll first of all check, or when we have clicked on either plus, minus, or divide, we're going to say performing math is equal to true. No, not train. Let's see. True. There we go. And then next time, so now we're going to display the plus sign so that the user knows that he has clicked on plus. We're going to say performing math is equal to true, so that we know that we now are going to type in a new number. So up here, when the user starts typing a new number again, we have to check if performing math is equal to true, because if it is, we need to do some special stuff. What we're going to need is we're first of all going to reset label.text, because we're going to type in a new number, so equals 0. Or actually, we don't need that one. We can actually just say label.text is equal to the thing that the button that the user just clicked on, which is sender.tag minus 1. So, and then we're going to do one more thing here, and we're going to say number on screen is equal to label.text, and then we're also going to say doing math, performing math. Performing math is equal to true, just so it knows that next time we are going to reset the field again, and now we are in the process of typing in a new number. And then down here, when we also start clicking either plus, divide, multiply, we also have to store the previous number. So we say previous number is equal to label.text. So this is before we reset it. We're going to store the label.text in our variable so that we know what our previous number was. So now we have stored that. We probably need some force unwrapping. Let's see, just like that. And then up here, we also need to force unwrap. And number.screen is of course also a double, so we need to convert that to a double. And then let's see if we need some more, which I don't think we need. So we're also going to add an else statement here. So if we are in the process of typing in a new number and we have already written the first character, we're just going to continue like normal. So let's copy that and add it to our else statement. And now if we launch the application, we will be able to type in a number, click on plus, and then type in a new number. So let's see if that is working as we want it to. So I'm going to type in 15, then plus, and then 16. And as you can see, it reset And that, okay, yeah, that's because we need to say false here because we don't want to call this one every time. So now if I launch it one more time, then we should be able to type in a number, click on plus, and then a new number. So let's see, 15 plus 16, and that works beautifully. So now our next task is going to be to, first of all, add the other button so that we can also click on multiply and minus, and then we're going to add the equal button so that now I would be able to add the equal button, and it would calculate my previous number plus this number that's currently displaying. So let's do that. And here we're just going to say divide, which is then labeled as text is equal to, here we're going to say divide, here we're going to say multiply, and here we are going to say minus. And one more thing, in order to store which operation that we're going to perform when the user clicks on is equal to or equals, we need to also store the operation that we're going to perform. So I'm going to create a new variable, var operation is equal to 0, and the operation that we're going to perform is equal to sender dot tag. And now we are going to add another button, which is the equal button, that's going to let us perform the math that we want. So if it's not a number, we're going to check if it is, if the sender has a tag that is equal to 16, which was the is equal to button, then we're going to perform our math operation. And we're going to check if operation that we stored up here. As you remember, we stored the tag of the button that lets us identify which operation we're going to perform. So if operation is equal to 12, which means we're currently dividing, then we're going to do something, and we're just going to copy this 4 times, 3, 4, and really we don't need else if, so I'm just going to, just to be sure, I'm just going to add an else if statement. And then if it's equal to 12, we're dividing. If it's equal to 13, we're doing something else. 14 and 15. And what we're doing, you can just check up here because they're the same tags. And it looks like we have a little problem here, and that is because I've written if else instead of else if. So that should solve the problem. So now, if we now focus on the plus, which we did up here, now we're going to check how we would go about adding our previous number to our new number. And we do that by saying label.text. So the label that's going to display our result is equal to our previous number plus the number on the screen. So the number, the first number that the user entered, plus the number on the screen, so the active number. And the reason we are saying plus is because we're in the bracket of plus. And of course I need to convert this to a string before I pass it to my label. So, and then we're just going to copy this, and we're going to paste it here also. We're just going to change this one to be a divide. Here it's multiply, and here it's minus. And now it should be working, but just before we launch it, I want to add one more thing, and that is the reset button. So I'm going to write else if, to be sure, I'm just also going to define the sender tag is equal to, was it 11, which was the reset button. Then we're going to say label.text is equal to nil, which means we're just resetting everything here. Previous number is equal to nil, and number on screen is equal to nil. And just to be absolutely sure, we're also going to say operation is equal to nil, just to reset absolutely everything. Now I'm going to launch my application, and now we should have, let's see, let's make it label.text. We should have a fully functional calculator. So let's try with a simple equation. I'm just going to say 15 plus 5 clicks on equal is 20. That's correct. Divided by 2 should be 10. Awesome. Multiplied by 10 is equal to 100, minus 50 should be 50. And there we go. Here we have a fully functional calculator. You can even reset it and start from scratch. Just like that. And of course you can go ahead and add other features so that when you click on equal many times it automatically performs the last operation. You can just check Apple's standard calculator in order to see which features you might want to build in, like decimals, adding that option. So this is how I would go about building a calculator, or maybe not exactly like this, but this is at least, in my opinion, the most easiest way to show what is actually being done. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you click the subscribe button, and then I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. But before I end this video, I just want to say that I do have a Swift course for beginners or who wants to master the Swift language. I will have a link of that course in the description, where I explain all of the basics or all of the Swift language in that course, which will make it absolutely comfortable with apps like these. So if there's anything you didn't understand, something you want to dive more into, then just click the link in the description and it will take you to my course, which goes pretty comprehensive through the tricks and tips and things that we use in order to make this calculator. But as I said, thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe, and I will see you back in the next video. So the first step is, as always, going to be to create a new Xcode project. So let's do that. And it is going to be a single view application. And I am just going to name this calculator. I'm going to click on next. And then I'm going to save it on my desktop. And the first thing that I am going to do is I'm going to jump straight over to the storyboard so that I can start laying out the app. Now the design that I'm going for is going to be Apple's calculator design, so I'm just going to get that on my phone, like that. Okay, so I'm going to try to resemble the Apple calculator as much as possible. We won't have all the functionalities. We'll make a basic calculator with dividing, multiplying, subtracting, adding, and then also resetting and all that stuff, but we won't build in, square roots and all that stuff. So I'm just going to select it, and I'm going to build it on an iPhone 5 or iPhone SE because that's what I've got right in front of me. And then I'm going to just drag in all of the elements that we need. Now all of the buttons are going to be buttons. So I'm going to drag in the first button, and then that button is going to be 1/4 of the width of our view controller. So if you just click your view controller, you can see the width right here, and it is 320, which divided by 4 is 80. So we're going to select it, and we're going to set the width of the button to be equal to 80. Let's see, I can't find my way around today. There we go. So we're going to set the width to 80 and the height to 80. So here we have the size of the button. Now we're just going to adjust the colors by selecting the attribute inspector, and then we're going to set a background color, which is going to be light gray, just like Apple has it. And then we are going to one darker, maybe? No, that's fine. One lighter, there we go. And then the text color is going to be a white color, just like that, or a gray. No, let's see, it's a black color actually, pretty black. Yeah, I think that's it. And then I'm going to adjust the font here. I'm just going to make a custom font here and select that one, and then light. And then I'm just going to set it to 50. Let's see if that's, no, that's a little bit too big. 30. And then I'm going to write 7 as a placeholder, and that looks about right. So now the task that I'm going to give you is going to be to lay out these buttons so that there are 4 in each row. So I just want you to take that one button that we have already made, and then and then actually we're going to have it five buttons in the height and then 4 in the width. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to skip ahead. So here I have all my buttons laid out, as you can see, 5 in the height and 4 in the width. And now I'm going to make a few adjustments so that it's exactly as the Apple calculator. So the first thing we have to do is remove the number 7 and drag this one wider, because this is going to be number 0. So let's type that in there, 0, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just like that. Then here we have divide by, here we have multiply, then we have minus, we have plus, and we have equals. And down here it's actually comma, but I'm just going to not use that in this tutorial, and of course you can add that if you want to, but just to keep it simple and explain the basics of how to make a calculator, I'm just going to leave that out for now. Up here I'm going to have the reset button. Here I'm not going to have anything, and I'm also not going to have anything right there. Then I'm going to make these 3 buttons one shade darker, so if you just select those 3 buttons, and then I'm going to go to the attributes inspector, choose the background color to be one shade darker, just like that, and then I'm going to select all of these down here, and I am going to make the background color orange and the text color white. So as you can see, it resembles the Apple calculator pretty decently. And now to take it one step further, let's click on our view controller, and then we're going to set the background color to be a black background color. So there we go, there we have pretty much, that's the Apple calculator. Now we are, as you can see, there is some kind of error down here with my buttons. They're not properly laid out, just like that. And now we are going to have a display so that we can display the result, display what the user is calculating, else a calculator, it won't be too much use. So I'm just going to drag in a label like this, stretch it wide to the edges, and down here, just make it fill to here probably. And I'm going to set the text color to be a white color. And I'm going to align the text to the right. And then I'm also going to make some custom adjustments here. So I'm going to say custom, this one, and then light. And then I'm going to increase the font size to, let's try 50. And I'm just going to write in a placeholder so that we can see how it looks. If I now say 80, okay, maybe a bit larger. I'm going to try 70. And that is about right. Now the Apple calculator is a bit, the font is a bit smaller, but of course you can experiment with the different font sizes in order to hit the perfect one. But for this tutorial I'm just going to go with that. And also, let's see, I just have to adjust these buttons here. You can of course place constraints, but that's not something I'm going to do in this tutorial. But if you want to have it look awesome for all device sizes, then of course make sure to place some constraints. Now we are going to take it towards the next step, and that is going to be to open up our view controller. And what we are going to do is we are going to drag in our buttons. First of all, I'm just going to show you how I do it. Now, you can drag in one button at a time, but instead we're going to combine all of the buttons to one function, and then instead of listening for a specific button, we're going to listen for the tag of the sender, so the tag that is attached to the button. And as I will show you right now, we can set a tag by going to the attributes inspector of a button, scrolling down, and then here you will have the option to place a tag. So I'm going to give the 0 a tag of 1, and I'm just going to continue like that, 2, 3, with all of the buttons. And as you can see, the tag is 1 higher than the actual number, and that is because the view controller and all of our other elements is has a default tag of 0. So instead of changing all of them, I'm just going to give it I'm just going to start at 1 as to not come into any trouble. So there we go. Now we have the tags of 1 to 10. And now I'm going to drag in all of these buttons. So I'm going to first of all drag in the 0, and I'm going to define it as a action and a UI button. And then I'm going to give it the name numbers. And then I'm going to make the function here so you have some space there, because then it will be easier to control drag the other buttons into that same function. And that is what you want to do right now. You just want to select a button and control drag it into that function, which basically means that all of these buttons are going to share the same function. Each time any of these buttons are pressed, this function is going to be called, and that is exactly what we want. And then I'm just going to delete this one so that it's completely empty. Then we are going to head over to the view controller, and I'm going to get us some more space here. And the first step that we are going to take is we're going to display the numbers that the user presses on. We're going to display that in our label. And one thing I forgot, and that is of course to drag in the label also in order to display the numbers. And I'm just going to call it label, just like that. And now we are going to take the first step, which is displaying the numbers that the user presses on in the label. The way we do this is by simply saying label.text is equal to label.text. So we're taking the text that's already in the label, and then we're adding the number that the user pressed on. So let's say that was send, and the way we get that is we simply say sender.tag -1. Because as you remember, we gave all of the buttons a tag, and the tag was one number higher than the real value that we want to display. So we simply say the tag -1. And then of course we need to convert it to a string so that we're able to display it in our text field. And here we need to force unwrap something, so insert exclamation mark. And what we're basically doing is I'm going to launch the application, and then you will see what we're doing here. So here's our calculator, and now I'm just going to write 1, 2, 3, 5. And as you can see, the way we're doing this is we're taking the number right here that's already displaying, and then we're adding the new number. So we're simply taking the old one and adding the new character. So 7, 9, 6. And we can keep on going. So that is working brilliantly, but right now we only have it as a string displaying in our label. What I want to do right now is I want to save it as a real number that we can actually calculate with and do something with. So I'm going to define a variable that I name number on screen, and it's going to be of type double, and it's going to be initially set to 0. Then down here I'm simply going to say number on screen is equal to double label.text. So I'm taking the text that's already displaying in my label and converting it to a double and saving it in my variable number on screen. And here you need to do some force unwrapping, first of all, to tell that there is some text in the label, and then also to tell that you're sure that we will be able to convert the text to a double, and we're pretty sure of that because it is originally a number converted to a string. So now we have been able to make the application so that we can write out a number that then displays on the screen. And I'm just launching it to make sure that also this operation here works, and it certainly does. Okay, so what we are going to do next is we're going to start incorporating the math symbols, so plus, minus, subtract, all that good stuff. Plus, minus, subtract, that's the same thing. But I'm just going to head over to main.storyboard, and I'm going to drag in all of our, going to get our view controller, and I'm going to drag in all of our missing buttons. Let's see, I just need my storyboard. There we go. So now I'm going to get myself some space right here, and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did up here. So I'm going to give all of these buttons a tag, and then I'm going to connect them in one shared function. So for these one, I'm just going to call buttons, and there are also going to be actions of type UI button. And I'm just going to, let's see, and then I'm going to drag in all of the other buttons. So drag in that one, drag in that one, drag in that one, and drag in that one, and this one. Awesome. So now we are also going to have to give them a tag, and as you remember, we stopped at 10. So we're going to continue at 11. So I'm going to give this a tag of 11, 12, 13, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So now we got all of our buttons set up. We have connected all of our buttons, and now everything that's remaining is to make it a real calculator. But it looks like the spaces are, no, they're actually fine. So now we're going to add the feature of, first of all, adding the addition feature so that you can add one number to another one. So that's what we are going to do right now. And the first piece of code that we're going to write inside this function is we're going to check if there is a number there, because we don't want to do a math operation if there isn't a number there. So first of all, we want to check if label.text is not equal to nil. Then we also want to check if the number that's being tapped on is not the reset button or the equal button. We just want to listen for the plus, subtract, divide, and multiply buttons. So we're going to say if the field is not empty, and sender.tag is not equal to 11, which was the reset button, and the sender.tag is not equal to 16, which was the equal button. So when we are inside this if function right here, we are sure that either plus, minus, add, let's see, plus, minus, and multiply, and divide buttons, one of those have been pressed. So inside here, we're going to dial in on the exact button that has been pressed. So we're going to say if sender.tag is equal to 12, we're going to do something here. And if that isn't the case, we're going to do something else here. And as you can see, this one is going to be our first button, this one is going to be second, and fourth. We're going to say this, and just like that. And if we now bring up our storyboard, you will see, just to specify which of the buttons we're accessing right here. Here we are accessing divide. Here it's multiply. Here it is minus. And here it is plus. So now we know which of the buttons that we are talking about when we are in the respective if function. And as I said, we're first and foremost going to focus on adding, so plus. And what we are going to do is we're going to take the previous number that the user might have entered, and then we're going to add it. So let's see, let's launch the app to make it absolutely clear what we are trying to do here. So what we want to do is we first of all want the user to write in a number. Then when the user clicks on plus, we want to display a plus sign. And then when the user clicks on equals, we are going to show him the results. This means that we first of all need to display the plus when the user clicks on plus.